just met with a friend this week, and straight up, he makes a great income. His wife works, a lot of great things going on, beautiful children, and he just said, literally, Brandon, I go through these depressive states. I'm kind of depressed right now, and I can't blame him, and I can't say that I haven't been there. Can't say that I haven't been there recently. And I think as a man, you go through these different bouts of wanting to provide for your family, and just the culture we're in obviously detracts from a lot of that, and it tells men that they're worthless, we're not needed, and again, not to go down that road. We don't need to expand on that necessarily, because I think everyone can see what's going on. Anyone who has two brain cells that rub together can see that. And it really is something we talked about a lot in terms of money, and the broken money though. And he's someone that's not into Bitcoin, doesn't know a ton about Bitcoin, and I just told him that the least interesting aspect about Bitcoin is the price. Price is the gateway drug that gets people in, but Bitcoin has really very little to do with the price. It has everything to do with lowering the price and lowering the prices of the people of the world, and capturing deflation, capturing all the technology growth and all the production of all of humanity, and capturing that deflation inside of a finite asset. The only finite asset, mind you, that is compatible with our finite time. The only two I know of. So why would we trade any of our finite time for an infinite liability? A piece of paper, or a digit on a computer, something that someone can just counterfeit and type into existence and steal your time and energy away from. Why would you continue to do that for yourself? And when we're all on this standard, and you continually, one by one, people start doing it in their life, they start gaining more time because their purchasing power is growing by holding Bitcoin. And now their time and energy is being given back to them, and it's not sucked out through the inflationary hole in their bucket, in their currency they're using. Because again, money is just a container for your time and energy, your economic time and energy. And government fiat currencies have a hole in the bucket, so it's leaking out through inflation. Where Bitcoin does not have that. It's a perfectly finite bucket for your finite time, so nothing leaks out. You just keep accruing your value and time, or time and energy over long periods of time. That's the beauty of it. And we talked about that, and we talked about the broken monetary system and this depressed state, which is really fiat. That's a fiat world we live in, to be depressed. We should have a world where we're capturing all of our technology, all the gains, the products and service being built, the value should all be accruing to your money, and your money should be a store of value. And again, fiat currencies aren't a store of value. So we work and save in this liability that we think is an asset, and we get poorer and poorer over time. We don't understand why. Most of us don't understand why. We're not taught it. We don't have time to think about it because we're on the hamster wheel. I told him straight up, you have to get off the hamster wheel. Like, you're on the hamster wheel. And he's just like, I can't. I don't know how. Where do I cut things? The kids need to go to school. They need to do this. And it's the saddest reality that we live in, that most people feel like they can't get ahead because they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. They don't know what's wrong. And it's something that's just eating away at them inside. And it's depression. It's lack of understanding. And like Bob Proctor talks about all the time, it's lack of understanding leads to depression, leads to disease, and then leads to disintegration. But the opposite of that is understanding, which leads to faith, and ultimately leads to flourishment and ease instead of dis-ease, and really getting to the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Self-actualization. You start to be in an opposite world where now people are working their way down Maslow's hierarchy, where they're now worrying about what the food they're going to get, and they're worrying about what housing they're going to have, and more and more homeless people. So instead of going up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we are going down the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, vast majority of the population. And at the end of the day, what is it worth? What is it, human beings, treat others as we would like to be treated ourselves, right? The golden rule. We have not been doing that. We just haven't. And with a broken currency, you can't do that. It's impossible to do that. It's every man for themselves. It's a zero-sum game. It's really the capitalist. As a capitalist myself, we've been wrong. We've taken this world where we have distorted it with broken currency. The Keynesian, socialist, modern day progressives have come in for the last 100 years and broken the currency. And capitalists have just said, well, get better. And I'm guilty of that too. Well, just get better. Just get better. Be better. And at the end of the day, there's a truth in that. And merit should be back in the world, 100%. I'm the first person that believes merit should be back in society, and you get what you play for. You get what you deserve. And I've had my ups and my downs, and so we have this money, this broken money, which is a currency at this point, because it's not a store of value, so it can't be a money. These government fiat currencies. You now have a world where the person who's working at McDonald's even if they're saving more than they spend each month, they're still falling behind. But in a world, in a Bitcoin world, a sound money, an equity-based world, you should be able to spend less than you save, so you're saving more each month and get ahead in life. Whether you're a doctor, you work at McDonald's, you're digging ditches, you're building houses, you're a chiropractor, you're a lawyer, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what profession you're in, but the cost of everything should be coming down. The capturing of deflation, the cost of everything, and the standard of living should be going up. That is an equity-based Bitcoin world. And I can only say that because I literally have studied it for the last 14 years and 15 years and lived it out and seen it play out through many people and watched what's going around the world. Driven through cities and seeing the homelessness on the rise. And it's always back to this deflation or this inflationary problem of governments printing the currencies. And it's why we have more homelessness, more mental diseases, more suicides. Popping of pills, pharma has grown, all these things, the destruction of our food, because now producers are putting crappier and crappier ingredients into their food because they're trying to meet the margin still and make their same margin or keep their cost or the price of their products the same. So they put worse and worse ingredients that are cheaper, and they're giving that to their clients, to their clientele, because they don't know what else to do. They don't want their clients to go away, their consumers, so they put worse and worse ingredients in, so the food is worse and worse and worse, and that's what we're consuming. And that's why we just had an attorney that we know say the other day, he's a medical malpractice attorney. He just said, I never saw breast cancer. I never saw any of these things growing up. And now people are going to say, well, we couldn't diagnose a lot of these things. And to a degree, there are some things obviously you couldn't diagnose 40 years ago or 80 years ago or what have you, obviously. But most of it we could. But you didn't have these rates of people with their hearts blowing up, or the cancers that we have. And why is that? Why is that? It's coincided with the mass printing of currency. It's coincided with big pharma blowing up. It's coincided with big agriculture doing their thing. And again, people should be free to choose what they want. We're not saying, hey, you shouldn't be able to eat McDonald's or things like that. But the reason people have gone to those places even more and more is because they feel like, and maybe it's true or maybe it's not, that they can't buy something they would have normally bought. They can't buy the grass-fed beef that's a little more expensive. They can't buy the grass-fed chicken eggs because it's more expensive. They can't do these things. And we sacrifice our long-term health for short-term gain. This is where the high time preference versus low time preference comes in. Fiat speeds up your time preference. So now you're thinking short-term, well, I just got to get by this week because I need some cash at the end of the month, instead of thinking long-term health and buying the thing that's actually healthy for you. This whole cycle, you extrapolate that throughout all segments of society. Looking at Disney, the content that people are putting into their heads. You're looking, the video games, the things that kids are putting into their heads. You look at the education system and what is going on there, where there's no merit. There's no merit. It's just tenure. There's no merit. They're taught by communists and Marxists, and then those Marxist and communist teachers who don't know they are then teaching the students this backwards way of thinking. So everyone's to blame. Everyone's to blame at the end of the day. And it's time we start telling ourselves a different story, that things can change. And I've had so many people, that same person yesterday and then someone other, well, government's going to stop Bitcoin, Brandon. They're going to stop it. And I simply said, there are reasons I could refute that, because you can't stop Bitcoin. You don't change Bitcoin. You can't stop it. You're just taking yourself out of the system, which you lose at the end of the day, right? So that's not right in and of itself, because it's a decentralized system that can't be stopped. It's just a protocol of speech and code. That's all it is. And that's where, if you understand that, then you understand, I am the government. The government works at the consent of us. Why do we choose to wake up every day believing in a fiat currency that steals our time and energy away from us every single day? It's because most people believe it. 99% of people believe that it's still worth something today. So I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm not going to I'm not going to just make the decision to switch and say, nope, I only accept sound money. I only accept something that gives me my time and energy back. I'm not going to accept this thing that steals it from me. And if a couple percent of people did that, it would change overnight. We are the government. And if you then still fight me and say, well, they're still going to do this and that, they're not going to let it go that easily, then we're saying our vote doesn't matter. And then we have a whole different problem. We have a whole new basket of problems if we're saying our vote doesn't matter and the votes are rigged and elections are rigged. That's a whole other fight we can have. But that's what we're saying. That's what we're admitting to. If we're saying, well, I don't have the power to do anything about it. We're saying I don't have a vote that matters. My vote doesn't even matter. So what are we doing here? Then what are we doing here at the end of the day? Then maybe we should move. Maybe we should go somewhere else. Maybe we should spend our money somewhere else. Maybe we should flee, because we're the frog in the boiling pot. And at some point, this game comes to an end, and it leads to a bad place, as history has shown us over and over and over again. So, before we go off into too many more tangents, I wanted to just share this story about my friend who is in a depressive state. And like I said, I've been there before many times over the last 10, 12 years thinking, I'm trying to do things right. None of us are perfect, and I'm trying to do things right. How come these things are getting bailed out? How come these things were getting bailed out 14 years ago? How come these people are getting bailed out 6 months ago? When I'm trying to do things the right way, I'm not getting bailed out. I don't have billion-dollar packages being sent to me right now. How come these people are being bailed out? How come the banks have FDIC insurance? How come they're being bailed out constantly, all the time? You're just covered if you lose your cash. We'll print it up and steal the time and energy away from everyone else. How come my business doesn't have that? How come my business doesn't have FDIC insurance? And oh, you know what? If you fail, Brandon, we'll give you $1 million each year if you fail. So don't worry. What a world we live in, where we just let those things happen. And we think that needs to be a part of the system. We think we need Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We think we need central banks. We think we need banking. But again, I want you to question everything with boldness. Is that the truth? Do we actually need those things? Would we be okay? Are there times in history in our lives, in the world, that those things haven't existed and people still survived and people still did what they wanted to do? Those are questions only we can ask and you can answer yourself. So I appreciate you coming to my TED Talk. Question everything with boldness, even the existence of God himself. Trust but verify. Please share this out. The algorithm hates truth, and we are our own best hope. I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.